As today is the 80th anniversary of D-Day, I wanted to air something tonight that had something to do with World War II. I decided to play an episode we aired May 1st, 2022, with guest Gerrard Williams talking about how Adolf Hitler faked his own death and escaped to South America. The book is called Grey Wolf: The Escape of Adolf Hitler. You can buy it via an affiliated link on GhostBoxRadio.com on my GhostBox Book Club page. The problem with tonight's episode is that the sound quality of Gerrard calling in from Paris is very poor quality. There were technical difficulties that Adam needed to MacGyver to get Gerrard on the air. We tried to clean up Gerrard's audio the best we could, but it's still not great. The sound quality gets better as the show goes on. Sadly, Gerrard Williams died a month later, so we were unable to get him on the show again. I hope Gerrard found peace and was able to solve the mystery of Hitler after the war.
There are things that we experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in a corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us, share your story, share your evidence, because this isn't just your story, this is our story. This is GhostBox Radio.
Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Oh no, no, you can't disguise. You can't disguise. Tell me lies, tell me.
And this is GhostBox Radio on AM 950, where every week we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, or just the unusual. My name is Greg Bakun, and thank you very much for joining me today. I love theories that go against established knowledge and facts regarding events in history. Stuff that is just like, we don't know the whole truth. We don't know everything. And not that I'm pointing to conspiracy theories per se, but there is stuff that I'm very, very interested in. When these theories actually have some research attached to it, that's what makes things much more interesting to me. Now, it sounds weird to say, but I've been fascinated with the demise of Adolf Hitler since I was a kid. Even as a child, I was surprised by how much a dynamic tyrant like that would have exited the world so quietly through suicide. That never really rang true with me. Today, we talk about what may have happened to Adolf Hitler after the war and how long did he actually live for afterwards. I have wanted to talk to my guest for literally years. I am so excited right now, possibly. Gerrard Williams is a published author, journalist, broadcaster, and TV presenter with extensive international experience. Gerrard presented 3 series of Hunting Hitler on the History Channel worldwide and have appeared on numerous other programs dealing with World War II and the Nazis. He has been involved in international news and television production for the last 45 years, have worked in 93 countries, and held senior editorial positions for major international TV news agencies such as APTN, Reuters Television, the BBC, I'm all about that, and Sky News. Gerrard has published 2 World War II fiction books and produced a major drama documentary, Grey Wolf: The Escape of Adolf Hitler, that was sold internationally. The book the film is based on, Grey Wolf: The Escape of Adolf Hitler, The Case Presented, has been published in 24 countries and has sold over 200,000 copies in English. It is available on Amazon Prime. A feature film script based on the book is currently doing the rounds in the U.S. Gerrard is currently completing work on a follow-up book detailing the activities of Nazis following World War II. Adam, do we have Gerrard? Nope, we do not have Gerrard. This is how it works when we're actually bringing in international guests and stuff. So we're going to do our best to bring in Gerrard Williams. Like I said, he was on Hunting Hitler. He co-wrote this amazing book, Grey Wolf: The Escape of Adolf Hitler. We'll get him in as soon as we can. If we can't get him in, hopefully we can bring him back at some point. We'll just see how the day goes. We'll do a hybrid show. We'll talk about maybe some paranormal later and whatnot. But what I do want to talk about when we are talking about the escape of Adolf Hitler is, like I said earlier, this is something that's really interesting. And the question I'm going to pose to all of you out there, listeners, as well as folks on Facebook who are watching, let me know. Do you think Adolf Hitler escaped Berlin in 1945? Do you think it's possible? And the theory that is presented to us by folks such as Gerrard Williams, and he's not the only one. There's other people who have written books about this as well. But the question I have for you all, because the theory is that he escaped to Argentina. Do you got him?
We're going to feng shui this in I have him on speaker, and that's the only thing that's connecting kind of way.
Okay, well, that sounds interesting. I don't know what that all means, but if we can get Gerrard on, we'll do it. So, okay, this is truly the work of science projects right now. So we're going to see how well this works. Gerrard, are you here with us?
Yes, I am. I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, you're a little quiet to us, I think, but I'm sure Adam will take care of it. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but this is the first time we actually brought someone in from beyond the U.S., and this is really exciting for us, to be very honest. So, thank you for your patience.
My pleasure. These things are sent to trials.
They really are. They really are. I'd also like to invite all of our listeners to join into the conversation. You can do so and call in if you have any questions. You can call in at 952-946-6205. That's 952-946-6205. The email address for the station is comment@am950radio.com. And we are live on AM 950 Radio, but also streaming video on the following Facebook pages. You can watch us on AM 950, Things Network, Paranormal United Network, MN GhistBox, Free Spirited Network, and we are new on RU Media on Facebook, so please go there and like that page also. And feel free to leave comments there for us as well. This is really something interesting. And Gerrard, I just want to be clear about something. There are two books we're talking about here. One that was, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I was a little confused on it. One that was created into this film that you can find on Amazon Prime, but the other, the case presented, that's more of the research, right, of the thesis.
There is only one book.
There's one book.
That's Grey Wolf, The Escape of Adolf Hitler, The Case Presented. That's the academic work.
Okay, thank you.
With 83 pages of notes, exactly how we came to our conclusions.
Great. That's what I don't know why it confused me a little bit, but as we are seeing how today is going, it's very easy for all sorts of things to kind of fall apart. Now I want to kind of set the stage here and talk a little bit. We have maybe about 3 minutes or so before our first break. I wanted to talk a little bit on a kind of a top level of how, because you got to read the book really to get into it, because there's so much into it. It's not just like, well, we think he escaped and here it is. The amount of information that you provide is astounding. What are some of the key pieces there that really pointed you to believe that Adolf Hitler actually escaped Berlin in 1945?
It's what everybody said who was there on the ground. That's what I don't understand about the historians. They ignore the BBC reporter, the Time Life reporter, the Life magazine reporter. They ignore everything that the Russians said at the time. The Russians said they found no body that could have been Adolf Hitler's. They did find about 7 or 9 doppelgangers, doubles. Mm-hmm. They found no burnt bodies of Hitler and a female, supposedly Eva Braun. They actually took the Time Life correspondent to where the network of tunnels was that they had used to escape. The BBC reporter Thomas Cadet, who was on the ground, and we used his audio in the drama doc, said that they had found no body that could have been Adolf Hitler's. So it's at this time that Stalin said he'd escaped to Spain or Argentina. Mm-hmm. Even troops on the ground in Berlin, Russian troops on the ground in Berlin, said he had escaped, and Argentina is mentioned for the first time in Berlin just after they took the bunker. And yet we are told that he was shot, he shot himself, Eva Braun took poison, and their bodies were burnt outside the bunker. Well, a detailed forensic search of the area around the bunker by a very senior forensic scientist, an Australian forensic scientist who worked a great deal with Scotland Yard in Britain, found no traces at all of burnt bodies. And then when the Russians said that they actually had his skull in Moscow, that skull turned out to be that of a young woman. So it couldn't have been Adolf Hitler.
Right. No, and I think that's one of the things, because that was fairly recent, within the last 10 or 12 years, that was finally debunked as not being Hitler, right? That skull fragment.
I think it was around 2009. It was while we were first researching Grey Wolf.
Got it. I was just going to say real fast, because I want to have you be able to speak more freely, and we start a little bit later. Why don't we do this? Let's take our first break. When we come back, as you can tell, we started our conversation with author and investigative journalist Gerrard Williams discussing whether Adolf Hitler survived World War II. You're listening to GhistBox Radio on AM 950.
The sound quality of our guest, Gerrard Williams, is very poor in this episode. That being said, I hope you still listen because the topic is so fascinating.
And welcome back to GhistBox Radio on AM 950. My name is Greg Bakun, and thank you for joining us. Our guest today is Gerrard Williams, who co-wrote the book Grey Wolf, The Escape of Adolf Hitler, available on Amazon, and also appeared on 3 seasons of the History Channel TV series Hunting Hitler. That's in fact where I first really got the understanding that this was something that people actually researched about the fact that maybe Hitler did not die in Berlin in 1945. And Gerrard, the thing that I find very interesting during break here, and I did cut you off, so I'd like to catch up where we left off, but somebody in the chat, in one of the Facebook room chats, had said, so glad they got him, meaning Hitler. But really, once you start looking at it, and once you really start peeling away the layers, it really doesn't. I mean, I know how you feel about it, but myself, just new to this, it does not feel like they got him at all. In fact, he lived a full life.
Well, a foolish life, yes. And the thing is that history has ignored everybody who said that he had escaped. Mm-hmm. And we're not talking about junior people. We're talking about Stalin. We're talking about Marshal Zhukov, the commander of the Soviet army in Berlin. We're talking about the first Allied officer, Major Fyodor Platonov of the Red Army, who said they found a body in the garden, but it was a bad double of Hitler. Mm-hmm. And when asked if he thought Hitler was dead, Platonov said no, he escaped. General Eisenhower, the Supreme Commander of Allied forces in Europe, said they had no evidence he was dead. He said there's every presumption that Hitler was dead, but not a single piece of positive proof.
Right.
There were 5,000 investigating officers. None of them reported finding a Hitler body. 5,000 men from the Allied nations investigated in Berlin. And the senior British investigating officer told his family that Hitler had escaped. And I can't even get to his files at the National Archives here because they're marked secret for another 100 years. I mean, this stuff isn't something that, suddenly appeared. It was all available at the time. And yet we have been led to believe that Hitler shot himself in the head, maybe took poison, Eva Braun probably took poison as well, then their bodies were taken outside and burnt. And yet forensic evidence at the site showed no sign of any burnt bodies. So why have we been lied to all this time?
Right. And I mean, is it as simple as that they wanted, like, the American public or the world to feel like a tyrant like that was out of the way? Or do you think that there is something bigger at play that had happened that it was that they wanted that they didn't want to explain what happened to Hitler.
They cut a deal basically with Martin Bormann, the secretary of the Nazi Party, to allow him, Hitler, the head of the Gestapo, Heinrich Müller, all to escape Germany, along with thousands of other senior SS officers and really nasty people. And in return, the United States got all the technology it needed to get to the moon with Werner von Braun and his Nazi NASA. They got lots of other technology as well. And they got about a third of the treasures that the Nazis had nicked from Europe during their 6 years of hell. They got about a third of those back, maybe 2/3, but a lot of it's still missing. They also got Hitler. And until the revelations of what had happened in the concentration camps came out, that 11 million, not 6, 11 million people had been industrially murdered by the Nazis, Hitler was still an important figure. He could have rallied the Germans against the new threat. And the new threat was the Red Menace, the Soviet Union. And so people like Allen Dulles, who went on to become head of CIA, he was very involved in doing that deal with the Nazis. On the British side, you have Ian Fleming, the creator of James Bond, but a very senior intelligence officer, and somebody who had helped Allen Dulles and General Wild Bill build OSS, because OSS didn't exist until Fleming showed them how to do it in 1940-something. So we have a group of senior intelligence officers at the heart of America and also at the heart of the British establishment, cutting deals with Nazis post-war that enabled the worst criminals in history, or some of the worst criminals in history, to escape and live out their lives, well-funded, in Argentina.
Do you think that there were any provisions given, like for if Hitler escapes, if he's allowed to escape, was there anything that Bormann had to agree to stop him from rising up in power somewhere else?
I think that Bormann was a very clever man for a criminal. And that he realized in 1946, along with the rest of the world, that the Nazi brand was completely blown. You couldn't walk around in your Hugo Boss flash SS suits with your polished boots anymore, behind a red and white swastika and black swastika. That brand was completely gone. But Bormann had taken with him or exported country-buying amounts of money to Argentina and to places like Syria and into Egypt. And he realized that he could actually use that money to create economic power in post-war Germany. He already controlled the politicians because the Gauleiters were pretty much kept in office at the end of World War II. Denazification in Germany after World War II is a complete myth. They were all out within 3 or 4 years, and they were all doing what they used to do and just not calling themselves Nazis anymore. They went home, they took off their Hugo Boss suits, and they took off their Hugo Boss uniforms, and they put on their Hugo Boss suits.
Wow. So how, why do you think this is hard for, and I'm just going to say for my audience, American audience, why do you think it's so hard for people to accept this?
I think it's because it was either Goebbels or Hitler himself who said, once you tell a lie loudly enough and long enough, it becomes the truth. And that's what's happened with this. A lie was carefully cobbled together by an Oxford academic who had been hired after a free bottle of wine lunch with an old friend in the security services to write the death of Adolf Hitler. So he didn't even interview half the people he said he interviewed. That's turned out to all be lies as well. But he took the suicide story from oath-bound Nazis who wanted people to think that Hitler was dead, and he made that a reality for the world. And it isn't. It's the biggest lie ever told.
It truly is. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's like, I mean, not being there at the time, my question is like, what was, and I think that was the question you alluded to earlier. It's like, what is the purpose of this lie? What is the purpose of his lie? Was the purpose of the lie amongst all these world leaders that Hitler was killed? Because it feels like to me that it wasn't done at the behest of the worldwide public. You know, it just seemed like that, you know, as you had mentioned, there's more at play than that. So it's like, why, you know, it just, the whole thing is pretty much disgusting, quite honestly.
No, completely. The thing is that the establishment, let's not talk about, Roosevelt or Truman or people like that, because they didn't know this was happening any more than Churchill did.
Sure.
But it's the establishment, the intelligence establishment in Washington and in London, who hate communists with a vengeance and also cannot stand Jews. So they don't care that 11 million Jews, homosexuals, and gypsies have been murdered in Europe. They really don't care. And what they care about is Stalin and the threat that he faces, that he presents to the New World Order. And they will do anything, and that includes working with some of the most evil people the world has ever seen, to make sure that communism doesn't get a complete foothold in Western Europe.
It seems to me that really, I mean, you take out the Hitler thing, it feels like times haven't changed all that much. Governments haven't changed at all. Leadership, you know, apart from what we're talking about, hasn't changed at all. It's the same.
Well,
same business, different day.
Yeah, I mean, you can trace the activities of the CIA and people like Henry Kissinger from post-war, and Kissinger knows about this from very early on. With the way in which Operation Condor happened in South America, where fascist governments were put in place by American money and American intelligence and American forces, the destruction of any socialism in Latin America at all. The way that the CIA used ex-Nazis in the cocaine trade, they used ex-Nazis to assassinate people, and they used a bunch of Nazi scientists to help them go to they didn't help them. The Nazis took America to the moon.
They sure did. Why don't we do this? Because I want to talk about post-war Hitler. Let's take another break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with author and investigative journalist Gerrard Williams, discussing whether Adolf Hitler survived World War II. You're listening to GhistBox Radio on AM 950.
Have you ever met someone who not only can help you on a deep spiritual level, but also potentially change your life? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who travels the nation and lives right here in the Midwest. And she offers mediumship, mentorship, house and business parties, energy healing, palm readings, and so much more. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
Hi, this is Psychic Medium Deb. I cannot wait to hear from you. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
The Tilted Tiki, located in downtown Stillwater, helps you get your tropical tiki vibe on with a large selection of fantastic tasting tiki cocktails served in unique and fun glasses, a menu of delicious food ranging from small bites, craft tacos, sandwiches, and more. Plus, don't forget they have live music Wednesday through Saturday nights. Located in downtown Stillwater, the Tilted Tiki is your tropical relaxation restaurant in Minnesota. Visit thetiltedtiki.com. Greg Bakun here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef, but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey bacon avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food to the same standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com.
Reach your highest level of consciousness and well-being with MetamorphosisConnections.com. MetamorphosisConnections.com is an online directory of the best holistic and metaphysical practitioners to help you make your most informed choices. You can search MetamorphosisConnections.com for classes, events, wellness and life coaches, plus metaphysical products and shops. You can also search for a wide array of healers from all modalities, including EFT, sound healing, energy healing, light therapy, ancestral healing, shamanic healing, reflexology, past life regressions, hypnotherapy, yoga, and more. And if you're not sure where to start, the search feature on MetamorphosisConnections.com is tailored to help both those who know what they are looking for and those who are just starting. Come explore the possibilities for your higher self by visiting metamorphosisconnections.com. Their experienced practitioners can guide both beginners and those that are already on their spiritual journey. That's metamorphosisconnection.com, your link to direct you on your spiritual transformation.
Need a stone to change your luck or break a curse? Try larvikite, known for its hex-breaking powers. Need an herb to repel negative spirits? Try rue, used to repel demons and jinn. Want to create a decoy so black magic can't touch you? Make a witch bottle. For more magical advice, visit Magus Books in Minneapolis. We've got the tools and the expert advice you need to succeed against the dark arts. Find us at 1848 Central Avenue Northeast in Minneapolis or at magusbooks.com.
The sound quality of our guest, Gerrard Williams, is very poor in this episode. That being said, I hope you still listen because the topic is so fascinating.
And we recently had Ernie and Denise Pack on from Pac-Man Paranormal talking about their work, along with others, to save Waverly Hills Sanatorium, a hugely popular and well-loved paranormal location. I urge everyone to seek out that episode from January 16th on am950radio.com and listen to what is going on over at Waverly Hills and also support them in their endeavor to save Waverly Hills from mismanagement. Go to savewaverlyhills.com and sign the petition, and please consider making a donation via their GoFundMe page there. Please share out the URL, savewaverlyhills.com. I would greatly appreciate it. And please remember to support our friends at Enchanted Boutique. This wonderful metaphysical store offers products such as books, candles, tarot cards, crystals, plus classes and services. They are truly wonderful people. You can visit them at 1860 Beam Avenue, Maplewood, Minnesota, or you can go to their Facebook page, Enchanted Boutique MN, and also their website, enchantedboutiquemn.com. At these locations, you can learn about their upcoming event, Enchanted Expo, on May 14th at the Maplewood YMCA Community Center. Details on the website and Facebook pages. I'll have a table there too, so stop on by. We'd love to say hello and all that good stuff. And if you miss an episode of GhistBox Radio with Greg Bakun Live, AM 950 replays these episodes Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, or you can listen anytime by going to Spotify or iTunes. After listening, please leave a positive review for my show. I would greatly appreciate it. Our guest today is Gerrard Williams, who co-wrote the book Grey Wolf, The Escape of Adolf Hitler, available on Amazon, and also appeared on 3 seasons of the History Channel TV series Hunting Hitler. I also saw that some people are trying to call in and ask questions. We're not taking calls at the moment, so if you have a question, please leave it in one of the Facebook chats. You go to AM950 on Facebook. You can go in the chat there, leave your question if you have one for Gerrard, or you can send an email over to us too, and that would be just fine. You can go to comment at am950radio.com because we are kind of holding it together to have Gerrard come through the UK right now. And Gerrard, you're in London, aren't you?
Not far, just outside Oxford.
Oh, okay. Yep. No, I haven't been that direction. I go quite a bit to the UK. Well, pre-COVID, I'm a big British television researcher. I really enjoy it. I go very deep into it, and I actually work with a group in the UK called Kaleidoscope, and they search for missing British television. So yeah, last time I was there, I got and I'm working actually with Alexandra Palace to do some stuff there. As you well know, it's the BBC's 100th anniversary this year. Come in September. So that's something that I am really quite interested in. But we're not here. We're not here to talk about the BBC today. We're here to talk about Hitler. I'd much rather talk about the BBC in a sense because this is truly appalling, but also really interesting. And folks, I will just say, if go to Amazon, get Gerrard's book, Grey Wolf, The Escape of Adolf Hitler. Once you start reading it, I guarantee you are not going to want to put this down. Even if you're just like, you know what, I don't believe this at all. Give it a chance. It's not expensive to get. Give it a chance. Read it, and I think you'll raise an eyebrow for sure. I wanted to talk a little bit though about post-war Hitler. I mean, it's so. Am I being just a monster by being like, I'm fascinated what post-war Hitler was like?
Okay, I mean, what is interesting to me is that The first time Argentina is mentioned is in the war diary of Field Marshal Lord Alanbrooke, who was the most senior British soldier in World War II. He's being shown around the bunker on July the 19th, 1945. And he says, quotes in his diary, the Russian in charge said that he considered that Hitler was now in the Argentine and that Eva Braun had never died, but instead a mistress of Goebbels. And Alanbrooke asks, I wonder if the truth will ever be known. Colonel Heimlich, who was the chief of US intelligence in Berlin, said in his final report to Washington, on the basis of present evidence, no insurance company in America would pay a death claim on Adolf Hitler. His final report said that no evidence was found of Hitler's death in Berlin in 1945. We also have testimonies of the pilot who flew them out, and there is a very, very good American author, Peter David Orr, who goes into the suicide myth forensically in one of his books, and also talks about the escape and the various options that Hitler had to get out of Berlin. Hitler post-war in Argentina, with his wife, Eva Braun, and their daughter, and Eva is also pregnant when she leaves Berlin and gives birth to another daughter late in 45. They live a pretty normal life for the first few years until Martin Bormann makes it to Argentina, and Bormann brings with him Heinrich Müller and the whole organization that he's been setting up in Argentina from 1943 on. In fact, even earlier than that, he paid effectively for Juan Domingo Perón to become president in Argentina, and Eva Perón, which everybody knows from the movie and the stage show Evita, had been in the payment of the Nazis since 1940. There are detailed records of Eva Braun receiving money from the Nazi embassy in Buenos Aires from 1940 on. This was a very friendly country, Argentina. It had its own Nazi party. It had huge amounts of German investment and a very big German expatriate community that had been there since the 1860s, maybe even earlier. So they were able to go there, the Nazis, and hide in plain sight. Nobody was looking for them. Nobody was looking for Hitler because this ridiculous myth had been created that he'd committed suicide with Eva in the bunker. So nobody's looking for Hitler. Apart from Hoover of the FBI, and he is still looking for Hitler. He doesn't believe he's dead. He's got FBI agents in Buenos Aires, in Argentina, where they stand out like sore thumbs, looking for Hitler. But when CIA comes into action, and that takes over the foreign aspect of American intelligence gathering from FBI, who before that had been responsible for overseas intelligence gathering, Dulles just shuts the whole thing down, effectively.
Okay. Wow.
Now, we have dozens of witnesses to Hitler's presence in Argentina post-war. Waiters, waitresses, the daughter of a high-ranking SS officer who says that her father looked after security for him at a house called Inalco on the lake, far from Bariloche, close to the beach of Ballestera and the Chilean border, which gave him a quick bug out if he ever needed it. They're not footprints in the sand. These are footprints in concrete of Hitler and senior Nazis in Argentina post-World War II. But in terms of Hitler becoming the Führer in exile, Martin Bormann simply doesn't allow that to happen. He makes sure that Hitler leads a pretty quiet life, isn't involved in the decision-making for the Nazi party in exile, because he knows that he's a busted flush. Hitler doesn't work anymore. People aren't going to follow him. The disgusting crimes of the Nazi regime are now public. Martin Bormann isn't associated with them, but of course he's dead in Berlin as well.
Right.
And the Germans find his skull, DNA, examine it, cross-reference it to an 83-year-old relative of Bormann's and say, yes, this is Martin Bormann's body. Well, there was something like 8 of Bormann's children available for DNA testing. They had never heard of this 83-year-old relative. And they offered their DNA. And the West Germans said, oh, no, we've crushed the skull and thrown it in the North Sea now.
Wow.
So that's not exactly proof that Martin Bormann died in Berlin either. And of course, there's no forensics that Adolf Hitler died in Berlin. None whatsoever.
Well, the thing that I always go back to, I was thinking this week when I was prepping for this, is the idea that, the fact that, Hitler just behind closed doors commits suicide. This Nazi machine is just way too big, too complex, has too much advanced technology in my mind just to allow that to happen. And when you bring up Martin Bormann in particular, it's like this was a massively orchestrated production, really, to get Hitler and themselves out of Berlin.
Yeah, they've been planning it since Stalingrad and the defeats at Kursk. 1943, Martin Bormann got all the industrialists together and said, "Get your money out of the country." And they did. They transferred it, by telegraphic transfer via Switzerland to banks in Argentina. The records are there. A lot of that money went back into West Germany in the late 40s to create what became known as the West German economic miracle. Well, there was nothing miraculous about the West German economic miracle. They just had a load of capital available to them, which they'd hidden for 3 or 4 years. And with the help of a man called John J. McCloy, who was a close friend of Allen Dulles, they both sat on the Warren Commission later. Make of that what you will. McCloy freed all the industrialists and got them making steel for tanks that the Americans fought in the Korean War. I mean, the complexity of the arrangement is huge. And I haven't even mentioned Otto Skorzeny, Hitler's favorite commando, Scarface he was known as. The Americans called him the most dangerous man in Europe at one stage. Skorzeny is key to all this. He's Bormann's wet job operative. He becomes security advisor to Perón in Argentina. He becomes Evita's lover. He runs the drug trade out of Colombia and the counterfeiting trade in American dollars that's also coming out of Colombia after about 47. Whatever people say, the Nazis broke the dollar. They'd broken the £5 note early on in the war and flooded Britain with false fibers. And then they broke the dollar, and they were flooding dollars back into Europe and into South America, but they were making them themselves.
And real fast, because I don't know if a lot of my American listeners would know this term, and I picked it up from watching Callan. What is wet job?
Okay, wet job is where you hire somebody to kill somebody, basically.
Right.
They do the messy stuff.
Yeah, because it's not a good job. It's a wet job. It's exactly.
It's an assassination.
Yes, absolutely. Why don't we do this? Why don't we take our last break, and when we come back, we're going to finish our conversation with author and investigative journalist Gerrard Williams discussing whether Adolf Hitler survived World War II. We're just really scratching the surface on this because there's so much to talk about. You're listening to GhistBox Radio on AM 950.
Are you one of thousands of individuals who know you have psychic abilities but don't know how to tap into your higher self? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who offers classes that can help you reach your goals. Refined Divine holds classes Monday and Thursday at her 2 locations and via Zoom. Classes consist of manifestation, learning psychic abilities, shadow work, and healing trauma. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
This is Psychic Medium Deb. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville.
Did you know that spiritual awakening is not all love and light? Surprise! Inner demons, ego deaths, and tower moments are on the horizon. But while life might hand you some harsh lessons, we've got the antidote to soothe your weary soul. Why not try a dragon's blood bath? Or schedule a Reiki aura repair? With books, herbs, talismans, candles, and more, we put the Shazam in shadow work. Visit Magus Books at 1848 Central Avenue Northeast in Minneapolis or magusbooks.com.
The Tilted Tiki, located in downtown Stillwater, helps you get your tropical tiki vibe on with a large selection of fantastic tasting tiki cocktails served in unique and fun glasses, a menu of delicious food ranging from small bites, craft tacos, sandwiches, and more. Plus, don't forget they have live music Wednesday through Saturday nights. Located in downtown Stillwater, the Tilted Tiki is your tropical relaxation restaurant in Minnesota. Visit thetiltedtiki.com. The sound quality of our guest, Gerrard Williams, is very poor in this episode. That being said, I hope you still listen because the topic is so fascinating.
And next week on GhistBox Radio with Greg Bakun, we haven't done one of these one-question readings in a while, so I'm excited that my friend, psychic medium Nicole Antoinette, will be on the show to answer any questions that you have. Questions about love, life, money. Nicole will answer them for you. Call in or post a comment for Nicole next week, and we're going to get to it. I'm looking forward to getting back to one-question readings. It's been a while. Now for our final segment, we return to our guest today, Gerrard Williams, who co-wrote the book Grey Wolf, The Escape of Adolf Hitler, available on Amazon, and also appeared on 3 seasons of the History Channel TV series Hunting Hitler. Gerrard, we have probably about 7 minutes or so left, so if you get too far into something, I might just have to cut you off. Normally I'd say this before we got on the air, but there wasn't any time today, was there? My goodness. So why don't we do this? Here's something that I find very interesting, and I think it's been debunked, if I'm not mistaken. There hasn't been any photographs of Adolf Hitler since Germany, since Berlin, at least none that we know of.
No, I believe they exist, but I haven't seen any. So, yeah. I mean, it's the last thing in the world you would do, I suppose. Would have your photo taken. But, I mean, part of the problem with all this, Greg, is there are so many roads to go down. There are so many avenues to explore. I mean, we have uncovered as much evidence as is in the book Grey Wolf since we wrote Grey Wolf. I mean, there is just a huge amount of material. But, you know, we're doing this off our own backs. There's no financing involved. I mean, what we need is somebody to get involved, you know, pick up proper researchers, more trips to South America, talk to the guys on the ground who have amazing material. There are 2 or 3 authors and researchers in Argentina who are just stunning in what they have, none of which has been, you know, out in the English language, and all of it needs to be out in the English language. Otto Scorzetti's personal papers are in Carolina, and I haven't been able to get at them because of COVID.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that sometime maybe at the end of this summer I'll be able to go over and look at the most dangerous man in Europe's papers, some of which I'm led to understand involve an assassination attempt on JFK that he was asked to do by Allen Dulles. But it's not the assassination that happened. It was a plan for an assassination that was never used. But I mean, that's just a side thing for me. What's important for me is how much economic and political power the Nazis continued to wield after World War II. Hitler escaping is almost like the cherry on the cake, but the cake is huge.
And it's happening. It happened without really anyone in the public really understanding that.
There were people who understood it, but they weren't. It gets me into this thing which I hate doing. It's almost like this secret America. On one hand, there's the Eisenhowers and the Kennedys threatening to smash the CIA into 1,000 pieces. And on the other hand, there's people like Kissinger, who's authorizing Operation Condor to allow fascists to be trained at American military camps, Fort Bragg being one of the main ones, and being sent back into Latin America to work with Nazis to get rid of socialist governments. I mean, the level of lies and mistruths and deliberate disinformation is just huge.
Now, when I had been watching, I didn't realize this happened because there was it seemed like one wrap-up, the final evidence for Hunting Hitler on the History Channel. Did that go any way in furthering your research at all?
No.
I didn't think so.
I mean, it's television, and it's a particular type of television. And although it took me to some places I hadn't been before, there were things done on the show which I wasn't massively comfortable about. But I think it did open up at least a discussion that history isn't how we've been taught it. It's very, very different.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think as you wrote in the book, the quote, "History is told," is written by the victors. So that you have that, and I think it was a good point of this, because I also remember at that time, especially when the first series was on, you and I were both on a Facebook page, a Hunting Hitler Facebook group, and it could get nasty. It could get absolutely nasty in there. There's a lot of volatile beliefs and whatnot, but I think one thing I would like people to walk away from this show today about is that, if you watched Hunting Hitler and you're like, well, this is interesting, I don't need to read the book, I'm interested, but I don't need to read the book, you're wrong. You do need to read the book, because the book is infinitely more detailed and more researched than that TV series is. The TV series is fine, but this is a completely different beast that you got to read.
Yeah, I mean, Greg, I'm not here to tell people what to think.
Right.
I'm not a historian. I'm a journalist. I've been a journalist for 45 years this year. God, I'm old.
Mm.
But what I will do is I will present things to people for them to make their own minds up on.
Yeah. No,
and this material will be sourced.
Yep.
And it won't be made up, and it won't be written in my bedroom. It will come from people who were there at the time.
Do you think... I mean, because, well, see, I don't even know how to word a question like this, because I'm going to be like, do you think that there'll be something definitive that will come out at some point that will get people to kind of finally be like, okay, now I believe? But I mean, honestly, the work that's been done, if I were to ask that question, it would put aside all that research that you all have done already, and that's not fair, because that's not, I mean, that's a good starting point. That's a great starting point to kind of start seeing a different viewpoint to history.
People say to me, okay, Gerrard, where's the smoking gun? And I say, well, if you have a look at all these 100 smoking guns and put them together, that's probably a smoking 125mm artillery piece.
Right.
But whether or not there'll actually be a smoking gun, a picture of Hitler that can be verified, that's not photoshopped post-war in Argentina, whether or not there is material in the Scorzeni papers that actually enables us to say, yes, this is definite. This is from a senior Nazi who was operational post-World War II with German intelligence and the CIA. That material is probably out there. I mean, I can't continue to finance it myself.
Yeah.
What we need is somebody to get behind this and, do a proper... Get researchers in, do it properly, organize all the information, and then present it in such a way that it becomes unassailable. I'm constantly called a conspiracy theorist or an idiot or somebody who makes all this stuff up by historians. And my problem with historians is that they just listen to other historians. I don't.
Yep. No,
I question everything. That's what I've done all my working life.
Right. No, and that's, I mean, and I guess too, the thing in my opinion is, you're not going to find a smoking gun, because all you need is really a shovel and dig just a layer below the surface of what we've been told, because like you said at the very beginning, it's been in plain sight the entire time.
Completely. And I just do not understand why it has been so ignored.
Gerrard Williams is the co-author of Grey Wolf, The Escape of Adolf Hitler, available on Amazon.com, and has been a huge part of 3 seasons of the History Channel TV series Hunting Hitler. Once again, go to Amazon to get the book. Give it a read. It's worth it, honestly. Thank you so much, Gerrard. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties. Hopefully, this doesn't scare you from coming back and having a more in-depth conversation about this.
Not at all, Greg. It's been a pleasure to appear on GhistBox.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you, sir. It's been a long time coming. We'll be back next week with Nicole Antoinette. Have a great week, everyone.